All right. Welcome to Overtime. Welcome in, Martha the Mop Lady. First appearance. How are you, ma'am, sir?
Call me sir. Yeah, when I started this whole thing 11 years ago, if you would have told me I would be on podcasts and radio shows 11 years later and referred to as Martha, I would have reassessed the entire naming of the thing.
Yeah, but it's actually a cool thing. My favorite, well, Chronic Hoosier's been on with us since I started. But my favorite character, and I'm so sad to say, is I guess gone away, is Captain Captain Andrew Luck. Oh my God, that Hilarious. Was the best. It was, and I'm like, why do you not continue? I don't care. You can be in retirement, man. Soldiers retire.
Exactly.
I need some more Captain Andrew Luck. I'm just
hilarious
disappointed,
content.
But plenty of Indiana content to talk about here of late. Dustin Schuette's with us from Saturday Tradition as well. But your following is well known as well. A kind of a no nonsense, a fan speak. You get to say the stuff that a lot of us on this side a lot of times are thinking, but I'm probably ride that line as much as anybody, but there's even stuff that I can't say sometimes that I wish I could, but you get to do that, but and also make it comment and make it comedic as well. So congratulations on the success of that, first of all.
I appreciate that. You look at kind of the evolution of the entire thing, and to your point, started as just I think I started in 2011, and just a way to kind of, obviously I bleed cream and crimson, but just a way to kind of share my emotions in a way that not everybody gets to, and it really took off when I did the ticket donation thing towards the early tenure of Archie's tenure, when we had the NIT games at home and started sending people to games, and Hoosier fans kind of grasped onto that and donated their tickets in every way, shape, and form, and sent a lot of kids to Indiana games, which was awesome to be a part of. And it's really grown from there. And to your point, I think it's just I share a lot of thoughts and feelings that a lot of IU fans do, and I think I'm sometimes the voice of many. Not every person. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't agree with me or what I say, but in many cases, I think they do.
Absolutely, I agree with you, and that is a fact, and that's something that actually I'm looking forward to hopefully doing with you or someone else this fall, because football is going to be so exciting. And I think there's going to be so much anticipation. I would love to be able to do that. That's something that I wanted to do before too, with like maybe the Boys and Girls Club of Bloomington or whomever. But absolutely, getting to send them out to some football games. Definitely want to do that, and I think we can get someone to help us with that along the way. Pizza X, as a matter of fact, anybody that's listening in Bloomington right now, if you're on YouTube following us, if you're from the Bloomington area, the first one, I got a great trivia question, and I don't know if you know the answer to this one. Who is the only Indiana basketball player that played high school, that is currently a coach and played high school basketball with a Major League Baseball player?
Ooh. I have no idea.
That's a tough. It's a tough one. I'm going to let the people on. So whoever can answer that on the comments, I'm going to let that one sit there for a minute. But also just got word that Roy Williams just announced his retirement from North Carolina. So there's that.
Is that another April Fool's Day joke?
It probably is, because
I don't
that's
think
the
it is.
second.
I mean, it was.
I had heard this was going to happen before. Someone said that like a week ago.
Right before I jumped on, Goodman, it came out from the official North Carolina Twitter page, and Goodman retweeted it, and it's kind of reaffirmed that it's not an April Fool's thing. It's quite the day to, of all days to announce your retirement. Give it a day, or do it yesterday.
Because nobody's going to believe it.
Exactly.
That's what I've said. For the past 3 or 4 years, I've said that this is my least favorite day to be a sports writer since the evolution of social media and Twitter, because I'd never believe anything on this day anymore.
It's,
the first comment we got was Trace Jackson Davis announced that he was going to the NBA from somebody. And I'm like, huh, really?
Yeah,
it was not. It was,
and I saw another. As sensitive of a group as we are as IU fans, with everything that's gone on, today of all days, just let's just give this year a pass on April Fool's IU content.
Well, for those out there, I have not had time to confirm this because I'm busy doing this show. I'm putting it out there that apparently Roy Williams is retiring from North Carolina, but if it's an April Fool's joke, I haven't checked that yet, so don't blame me. But I had heard that a week ago. I really had. And let's be, I mean, he's like 106 years old, so it's not like it's out of the question.
Any thoughts on initial, people to replace him off the cuff here real quick? I was thinking of that when I saw it.
When I heard that he was going to retire and that Hubert Davis was going to be announced his replacement. Is he coaching?
I think he's on their bench, isn't he?
I think he's an assistant.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I had heard that he was, but wasn't he just on TV a couple of years ago?
Yeah, he was an analyst, and then he took that role with them, I think 2-3 years ago.
Wow, it would seem like they would have someone who was longer, but maybe they don't. I mean, maybe it's like an Indiana situation. They just don't have anyone younger, which is what we're about to talk about next.
I feel like Hubert Davis had a stint. I don't know if it was North Carolina, and then went to TV, and then came back. I feel like he has experience. It was just broken up. I could be wrong on that. I'm not well versed in Hubert Davis coaching knowledge, but
that will be an interesting one to monitor.
Yeah. And so what we were talking about earlier is now the assistant coaches have to be selected. Mike Woodson, the new coach. First of all, Mike Woodson, the new coach. I know that fans were looking for this big splash. They wanted this big, but they're really, other than Brad Stevens, there was no big splash that was really even possible. And that was not really even possible, to truth be told, now from what I've found out. Chris Beard was never a possibility. Thad Matta was, and all of a sudden that changed. And then it got to this. I'm fine with this. I think that they're doing it a little differently, but Tom Allen did it a little differently, and that's going to end up working out fine. I'm okay with this.
Yeah, I go back to when it was announced, and I was always kind of in the mindset that if you're gonna fire Archie this year, then you need to know who you're going to hire. I've said that from day one, and maybe he did. Maybe this was his guy all along. You make the pitch to Stevens because I think you have to, and maybe this was guy number 2. But I think it was such a surprise to a lot of people. I think about my reaction on Sunday, and I was like, at first, I'm like, what are we doing? You've got to be kidding. And then you go down the path and see, that Thad Matta's affiliated with it, and then that makes you take a step back, and you're like, okay, well, that's Thad Matta, one of the you look at Big Ten coaches over the course of the last 20 years, and his name's right at the top. He's not going to associate himself with something that he doesn't believe in or think that's going to work. And then you start thinking about what this needs to look like, because the recruiting's going to start right away. You've got 7 guys in the portal. You've got guys committed over the course of the next 2 years. You've got to put a staff around you that's going to help make this thing work. So there's a lot of boxes that need to be checked right away for, I think, belief to set in with a lot of IU fans that this has potential to work. And you look at some of the stuff that's happened over the course of the last couple of days, and I think people are starting to, their ears are perking a little bit. Those that were on the fence, like myself, I put myself and I'll preface this with, my assessment of Indiana basketball coaching hires isn't the greatest. I thought Tom Crean was the next big thing. I thought Archie Miller was a home run. So my ability to review and assess hiring decisions by IU isn't the greatest, but you look at things you wanted to see happen with this hiring, and so far some boxes are being checked that really make you think this has potential to do some things.
And let me jump in here real quick, because I think I had the same reaction to you when I first saw the news. I thought there's was he option 9 or 10? Didn't nobody else want this job? And then I took a step back, and then you see that Thad Matta wants to join. And then I look at what Juwan Howard and Phil Martelli had. And I think that Mike Woodson can focus, at least early in his start here, on basketball, and he'll get that guidance that he needs from Thad Matta on the recruiting aspect of it. I mean, do you think that makes Mike Woodson's job a little bit easier? I mean, I know it's not exactly like the Michigan situation because there's a little bit of a difference there. But I think from a basketball standpoint, like, my question is more about the long-term future about Indiana. I think the basketball aspect under Mike Woodson is going to be just fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
No, but absolutely. And something else I've said is I don't know where he was in the hierarchy, but from what I know to guess, Brad Stevens, of course, was number one. They had to do that. Mm-hmm. But I think that they thought they could get him because they offered him a lot of money. Brad Stevens is just not, it's not about money. It was not about money and not about Indiana. It was not about that, although Brad Stevens' wife is on the board of directors at Butler, something to keep in mind. I don't think he's just ready to leave the NBA. That's what I was told. He's just not ready. It's a timing thing. Not 2-3 years from now, maybe he does, but he's just not ready to leave the NBA. After that, there's not really a lot. Chris Beard was not an option, was not leaving Texas. Then you started talking about all those other popular names. People, no, that's not an option. I think that that Scott Dolson probably did narrow down quickly to Mike Woodson after the Brad Stevens thing was not going to happen because there just is not a lot in front of you there. Otherwise, you're doing another Archie Miller kind of guessing game, and that's a chance they could not take. Absolutely can't afford to take when you just paid $10 million to get rid of the guy. You can't go down that road again. The worst case is here they see you're building an Indiana culture, but I think that who he brings in as assistant coaches is going to be of uber importance. Michael Lewis is someone that I think would make a ton of people happy. Calbert Chaney would too. I don't know that Calbert is looking to get out of the NBA now as an assistant, unless this is going to lead to a head coaching thing, 7-8 years from now. But Michael Lewis may be the most primed to fill this position.
Yeah, I would have to think there'd be a ton of appeal there too when you look at Mike Woodson's age and the length of his contract for somebody to step in there. A Michael Lewis, I don't know that obviously Dane Fife's in a situation right now where it would be similar to what he might walk into with Indiana. But I would think there'd be some appeal there for a guy like Michael Lewis to step in and 6-7 years down the road, whenever it may be that, you might be a successor or in a position to be a successor. So, and obviously I think you need to bring somebody in with those ties to the state of Indiana. Obviously Coach Woodson being from Indiana has some of that, but he's been coaching in the NBA for, a ton of years. So I think you need somebody that's tied in, in the high school ranks, the AAU ranks, that's done some recruiting. And I think that's where Michael Lewis would be a really impressive hire, to your point.
And that's the answer to the question I asked. Michael Lewis played high school basketball with Scott Rowland at Jasper High School.
Wow.
Yeah, and see it, but it's the great little stories. But Michael Lewis is, the more I start thinking about it, man, 8 years from now, 7 years from now, whatever. Michael Lewis, Jasper, Indiana. The guy known for getting in Bob Knight's face. He played for Knight.
Just added a Final Four to his resume.
He's coached under all these guys that have been successful. He's gotten bits of coached at Butler. West Coast experience. He has gotten added a lot of boxes to his resume. And man, oh man, I'm going to be surprised. The only reason he's not going to be on this staff is if he does not want to leave the sunny, beautiful confines of Southern California. And I wouldn't blame him. So, but we'll see. He happens to be in Indianapolis this week, so that makes life easier for an interview. So we'll see. And we'll have Michael on. I'm not going to ask him about that, but we'll try. Well, I think we'll have him on this week. But going forward with that, we've talked about the players, getting them in. They're going to have to do some recruiting also. you've got the guys you got to get in, but there was 2 open scholarships, which is ridiculous. But you've got recruiting to do. You've got the portal that they can recruit from. And I think that may be the best place for them to go to right now, because you can get ready-made talent. This team has got the basis of talent, I think, to be an NCAA team next year if they get these guys back, and you can add a piece or 2.
I agree, and it's wrapping your head around that portal is kind of challenging because the amount of players that are in it, and 2 the amount that get added each and every day. So trying to wrap your head around that, and I'm sure he's probably, and it's a 2-way street with guys that are in there now. I mean, there might be guys that he sits down and has a conversation with that are on the team now that he thinks he might think, and they might collectively think that there's a better situation for them somewhere else. So I think it's kind of a 2-way street. So it'll be interesting to see. But you're already seeing Indiana mentioned with some of these guys in the portal that are stating that they've been contacted by IU. So it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves for sure.
Yeah, Shimitori 66 says UNC has hired within the Tar Heel family ever since they hired Dean Smith after Frank McGuire recruiting point shaving scandal. Well, there you go. You definitely some places that works for, and I think that Indiana is a place that they never should have gone away from that. Kentucky is different. Kentucky is not built on Kentucky players and regional players. They're not. It's just a different deal. Indiana is a blue blood, but it's built on their own talent. And I think that that's the reason why Indiana is a school that needs to continue that type of inside the family kind of a situation. It's not necessary. Bob Knight, here's the great trivia for you to bust on some people. Bob Knight was the first non-IU graduate to be hired as basketball coach at Indiana.
Wow.
I just learned that the other day. It's not like
I wasn't aware of
that. John Leskowski dropped that bomb. I was like, God, are you kidding me? Nice little tidbit, but
yeah, that's interesting.
But I think, but Bob Knight he basically created the Indiana family. You look at all the guys, because he was here for so long, so many players, so many guys that were in the pros, so many coaches, the tree. It's because of that. And that's the same thing that Dean Smith created. All the guys, the players, the coaches that came after those, and Mike Krzyzewski will have that. That longevity and winning affords you that. But you've got to have both, longevity and winning. Indiana should have continued that, and I think that they will now. And, man, I like the thought of that, Michael Lewis, down the road. But got to get him here as an assistant head coach. Kenya Hunter's being retained. I think that's going to be good for recruiting. Your thoughts on that?
I thought that was huge. Both with, because there had been, chatter that he was, obviously he was part of the group, the group that Scott Dolson kept around to kind of stay with the team. But there was also kind of some chatter that he was interviewing at other places, like a Louisville was mentioned, things of that nature. And I think you look at the roster as it stands today. I think keeping Coach Hunter a part of the team, the coaching staff, I think it's going to help retain those players that you ultimately want to retain. Obviously, we saw the news with Parker Stewart yesterday, but I think he'll help with guys like Armand and maybe Christian and whomever else that they choose to keep. But I think it's going to help, obviously, from a recruiting standpoint and a retention standpoint for sure.